Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, Wednesday, October 23rd, 2013. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. A roll call.
Commissioners Steve Houston and Gordon Machado have an absence. Commissioner Judd.
Here.
Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
And Executive Secretary Mike Chambliss.
Here.
Okay. Okay, verification of the agenda posting.
The agenda for the Airport Advisory Commission of the City of Hollister special meeting of October 23rd, 2013 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on October 21st at 2013 at 10:30 a.m. per Government Code Section 54954.6.
Okay, thank you. Okay, consent, approve the minutes of the Airport Advisory Commission regular meetings of September 25th, 2013, and the revised minutes of August 28th. Do we have any discussion? Corrections?
I'll move we accept the minutes.
We have a motion. We have a, all in favor?
Second.
Aye?
Oh.
Oh.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, public input. Now is the time for anybody, do we have any speaker cards? No? Okay. Okay, item 7, reports, airport manager's report. We'll go a report, discuss the following: civility at the airport.
Good evening, Commissioners. Item 7.1 is brought up. A few weeks ago, we had an incident that was caused by careless flying, careless operation of an aircraft. It was magnified by personalities kind of getting a little out of control, and it resulted in actually the Hollister Police Department having to respond to the airport for a disturbance. While there were many parties to blame, about 4 different parties to blame in the situation, and the parties have been spoken to, or most of them. I still have to talk to one of them. And corrective actions have been advised, and action is being taken to correct the situation that caused the situation in the first place. I just thought it good to bring up the fact that when everybody signs a lease at the airport, everybody agrees to follow the state and local and federal laws. And getting in an altercation at the airport would be violating local and state laws, and thereby violates the condition of your lease. And if it gets to such a point that the only way to correct that would be to terminate the lease, the city would have no other option but to terminate the lease. Now, granted, I don't have much authority over the way people operate aircraft. That duty is not entrusted to us. I'm a property manager. I have spoken to the people who do have that authority, which is San Jose FSDO, and they have been provided with the information for the situation. I encourage any and all incidences to the airport to be reported to my office as soon as possible with an N number, if you can get it, description of the parties involved. If that's not going to work, if it's a Saturday and I'm not around, or et cetera, Gavilan Aviation is entrusted with the duty of management of the ramp. You can certainly report a violation or something that occurred to them. I'm sure that they would take corrective action as much as they could. Or if that doesn't work, you can contact the police yourself and have them respond, and they're on duty, and they have my numbers. They can ask me to respond. Dave has my numbers. Dave can ask me to respond. So there are ways to deal with this where you yourself are not confronting the person who did the aggrieved violation. And I cannot stress how important it is for your own safety not to do that. You never know what you're dealing with. And this comes from my law enforcement background. You never know what you're dealing with when you go into a confrontation with somebody. You don't know what they have on them. You don't know what they have in their vehicle. We train hundreds and hundreds of hours on what-if situations in law enforcement to deal. What if that guy has a knife? What if that guy has a gun? What if he's not on his meds? What if this? What if that? And to be honest with you, you folks haven't had that training. You don't have the safety equipment, so it's always best just to let us handle it. Okay? I don't want anybody getting hurt. I don't want the Hollister getting a bad reputation amongst places. This was actually even exasperated later on when I got a call from the fire department saying that an air ambulance company was refusing to land at the airport because they were afraid of being confronted for landing at the airport to pick up somebody who needed to be flown out. So this has got to stop. And so I've talked to the parties. They've given me their word. That's good enough for me. We're monitoring the situation. I just wanted to bring it to your attention and point out that there are repercussions if it continues. Okay?
Any questions by the commission?
We
Okay,
do have a speaker card, maybe. You want to speak? Yeah. Okay. He said maybe, depending on what was said. So.
I am Ernie Persich. You all know me. I'm at the airport. Yeah, what happened there initially, I got verbal with the pilot as he blasted the hangar from about 20 feet. It was so hot I could feel the exhaust. We had an air stair almost hit John Hodgson's custom steerman by about 2 inches, and the drip pan flipped over, missed the other wing, and wrapped itself around my tug, and almost, if it wasn't there, it would have hit Orion, which is in the back. There's only 3 in the whole planet of that particular aircraft. So I watched for 5 minutes. I was loading up tools. He was parked out at Bravo facing the east and sat there for 5 minutes. And I see a lot of the jet guys do that. They just don't know where to go, especially on a weekend. They don't know who to talk to. So he came forward. I didn't pay attention to that. And then he turned heading northbound. And, okay, he's going to unload there. And I was getting back busy, and all of a sudden he cocked the nose wheel, he was stopped, so he had a lot of power, and all kinds of stuff flew off, all my toolbox, all this other stuff. I couldn't get to the door soon enough because the doors are slow. It moved the door enough where it unjimmied all the cables, and we had to try and physically work the cables back down, which we did. I calmed down later, and I talked to the guys, and I apologized for yelling. Unfortunately, somebody else got a little more physical with the one co-pilot who was telling him to back off, and then he called the police, and then I think that finally calmed down. But after it was all said and done, I said, you guys cannot taxi like this. You got hangars that are open. You don't know what damage you're going to do to aircraft or parts or people. I've had airplanes blast me, jet aircraft, where I've had a ladder fall off from underneath me, and I'm holding on to the airplane 6 feet in the air, and I got to hold on until he goes away. I've had that happen. I've had helicopters come over the top. If I can see him, I close the door, but I had one incident where he came over the top, auto-rotated. We had an airplane. We just had landing wires on it, and the wings were doing this on a brand-new restoration, and he was just getting fuel. We've never had a problem talking to any of the rescue helicopters if they're picking up people, but when they're parked right in front and they can do a lot of damage, you know, I try and talk to them, and yeah, I get a little hot-headed sometimes about it, and I understand that that's not my job. My job is just to try and protect my equipment. If there's a problem, now I'll just start to report, so that's what we got to do in the future. But I don't know if there's any way of fixing this problem so aircraft know where to go, because a lot of times they just don't know where to go on the airport when they come in. Most of the time they have somebody come out, they direct them, but there's times when that's not there, like on a late Sunday, and you know, things can get out of hand like that. So hopefully we can all fix this and work together on it so we don't have any more problems. That's all I got to say.
Hey, thank you. Okay. Move on to the next item. San Benito Fair.
So as some of you are aware, we set up a booth at the San Benito County Fair this year for the air show. We went ahead and put the airplane out, helped kids get in and out of it. Several of you came out and volunteered. Really appreciated the spell because I was out there the entire time and got sick as a result of it. But we put 960 kids through that airplane, and we issued 960 sets of wings. So I believe the airplane was a hit with the kids. So all in all, and everybody had nothing but good things to say about the booth. So I think it was well spent little sum of advertising money.
Very good. Any questions?
And actually, we had nothing but positive things to say about the change in the date to Father's Day.
Okay, next item, the Young Eagles.
We had the annual Young Eagles, or biannual Young Eagles event out at the airport, but I think maybe, Fred, you'd be best to speak on it since you were involved.
Okay, or Dean could. No? Go ahead.
Well, I'll be happy to talk a little bit. We did have, I don't know how many airplanes. We had maybe 5 airplanes, I guess,
Yeah,
some
fine.
approximately. And we managed to give 36 kids rides, which was pretty good, and particularly tied in with the previous report. I believe all of our advertising for this event basically was what took place at the fair at Mike's booth. We were handing out flyers on, telling about the Young Eagles, and so that was very effective. I think we really got a nice crowd of kids, and I see a bunch of kids here. Anybody between the age of 8 and 17 next year is certainly welcome to come out and get a free airplane ride. I think it was a successful event. Weather was cooperating, and everybody had a good time.
I might explain what the Young Eagles program is. It's put on by the Experimental Aircraft Association, and it's nationwide. And I think, I don't know, they've flown a total of 1.7 million kids over the last 10 years, something like that. Trying to get people interested in aviation, so it's a real good program. Okay.
And
Any
what
other
they
questions?
won't tell you is they don't receive a penny of compensation for doing it. It's all donated time and donated materials. And that avgas that they're burning at $6 a gallon, they pay for themselves. So, thank you.
Okay, next item is old business. The restaurant food service picnic area update.
So I get a little bit of an update for the restaurant. We have the asbestos report. I got good news and I got bad news. The good news is there is no asbestos in the restaurant. The bad news is, since I had them out there and was paying them to be out there, I had them pull samples on the Small Arms magazine that's out in the field next to the tetrahedron. That building is 40% asbestos. So we're going to have to abate that building when it comes time to tear it down. Okay?
That's the restaurant?
No,
Oh,
that's the
that
Small
building.
Arms
Okay.
magazine that's out in the field. So that's what I thought. Basically, what that building is corrugated asbestos over a metal frame. That's how they used to build that stuff in the old days. So at this point, we have everything we need to actually tear down the restaurant building. We've checked the building's construction. The blocks are hollow. We actually have the equipment. Our backhoe can handle it. We can recycle the majority of the materials produced. You're required to recycle up to 60% of it, but we can actually do more than that. But I may have a option to reuse that building for something other than a restaurant. So I will have to bring this back to the next meeting. I have some meetings to do with some people to go from there. As far as a temporary restaurant facility, looks like they do exist, but currently the only company I can find that makes one is in England. So I'm going to keep trying for a local company because I think it costs a lot of money to float a trailer across the ocean, drive across the country to be our restaurant. So that's my update on the restaurant for this month.
Any discussion by the commission?
I guess just one question I have is, there was some thought or one suggestion made at one point about a roach coach or whatever you call them. Did anybody ask anybody about that, if they'd be interested or how that would work? Or?
Have not. We'd need to do the improvements to the site to have something to show them before we could do that. You know, there's going to have to be a place for them to park. There's going to have to be an eating area. So there's still time to do that. Plus, that's something that we would do towards the spring months as the weather is changing, as you well know.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, next item is the airport capital improvement plan.
The airport capital improvement plan was accepted by the city council at the last meeting and adopted. So we're continuing to move towards the runway rebuild. It had the changes that you guys saw and approved in it. So that is our strategery that we're moving towards at this point.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, next item, annual fuel flow review.
So you have before you the fuel flow rates from surrounding airports. I guess Gustine and Rio Vista did not respond to our inquiries, but the remainder of them are there. So I'll turn it over to you folks for discussion.
Okay. Any discussion by the commission? Yes.
I have a question. Chico and Rio Vista seem like a long ways off. And I just, well, like in other words, I wouldn't call them being surrounding, in my mind, Rio Vista or Chico. And I was wondering if, let's see, we have Salinas, we have Monterey. Monterey is, do I see Monterey listed here? I don't see Monterey. So I think Monterey is relatively close. Certainly a lot closer than Chico or Rio Vista. And so I might like to know what Monterey charges. And what's the one south of Monterey? What's
San,
King
Marina.
City?
Marina.
well, yeah, we have.
Oh,
yeah,
you got
there's.
that. Owns it.
Well,
Marin.
it says Marin. I guess is that Marina?
Yeah, that's the Marine Airport.
Okay, but there's.
They own the fuel and stuff.
So I'm wondering about Monterey. Might want to add that. And what's the one where Bob Pete has an air hangar? It's on down the valley down there.
King City?
Yeah, King City.
Oh,
I mean, they're probably,
So you also want Hayward and San Carlos?
it might be of interest. I mean, just to see what we're looking at.
Since you have a little bit more.
well, most of the airports are similar in size that are listed here to Hollister. So I don't know, I
Well,
would assume that
King
Monterey,
City.
they might own their own fuel, I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, you know, if you get the information, you can always ignore it
Right.
if you want, but it'd be nice to have the information, so.
Okay.
Okay.
How is it we interpret Los Banos? Is that 8% of the price of the fuel for 100 low lead?
Yeah.
Is that how we interpret that?
Yes,
So if it's $5 fuel,
they make the 8%
it's 40,
profit on
it's
it.
40 cents.
That doesn't seem right.
This is what he gave me?
That's what he gave you, huh?
That's
He was
their
eight.
profit. they may not charge a fuel flow rate.
I see.
They make 22% on Jet A.
So there's your information. Price accordingly.
Something wrong with that picture.
So the remarks has something about call left message. What is that? Is
That means that I called them, left messages, and they didn't respond.
So how'd you get the information?
There,
City owns fuel,
that's
Zero
left over from
on-
last year.
Rio Vista,
No, Los Banos. I'm talking about Los
and Los
Banos.
Banos. Los Banos is publicly owned.
Not
You
on
don't
my,
understand
not
what
on the
you're-
thing I've got.
The one I
Are
have,
you using the one that's with your packet that I put on your desk?
That's the only one I've got.
Oh,
It says 8%, that doesn't
It's the
sound,
one that says 8%. That's what we were talking about.
8%
very last-
100 low lead?
Right. And then under remarks, it has $ called / left message.
You must have gotten one that I threw out.
Am I the only guy that's got that?
yeah, no, I'm confused what that is too. We
How
probably
about
ought to
yours?
follow up on that.
I'm
Ours
sorry.
all say $ called / left message.
I think,
okay, I think what we need to
Is that-
do
is
is get
Does
the
that
other
mean
cities.
City-owned, is that what that means?
Publicly owned, that's what it means.
Or whatever, okay.
okay.
Okay, well, this is a good start, I would say.
Okay.
I think it'd be nice to get just a little more information, and plus, if we get serious about this, it'd be nice to have maybe a little
Full commission.
full commission to,
Yeah,
if we want to come up with a recommendation.
Okay.
So that would be my opinion, anyway. Thank you.
okay. Any other discussion?
I have a couple questions. I guess when I'm looking at this, I was trying to put it in overall perspective, and maybe I have some questions for you, Mike. On our budget this year, we say that fuel flow fees are like $12,000. That's your estimate, hmm? And in our current fuel flow fee is 8 cents a gallon.
Mhm.
That's what we went to in 2011. And that would, just as curious number, it would put us at 150,000 gallons for this year. Does that kind of make sense? And I'm sure Dave probably got a better idea of that.
Well, Dave actually just told me the other day in a meeting that when the restaurant closed, the gas sales precipitously dropped
Okay.
off. So
But it was that's what it would be.
we were on track, yes.
We were on track, okay? If I put this in, I'm trying to put it in overall perspective to see where we are with respect to this airport. And at 8 cents a gallon, you're projecting at one time that we're going to get $12,000 fuel flow fee when the fuel flow fee was 8 cents a gallon. Just for numbers, if we raised it to 9 cents, the fuel flow fee goes to $13,500 at the same fuel flow, okay? The revenue, the delta revenue to us is $1,500. Well, what does $1,500 mean? If your number's right in here, right, our revenue is about $709,000, projected revenue this year, right?
That's peanuts.
So if we go up 1 cent a gallon, which is $1,500, it's 0.21% of the revenue of the airport,
That much?
okay? And the reason I'm saying all this is, if we back up and look at the economy right now, everybody seems to think the economy is doing better, but I don't see any more airplanes out there. And they've been through some bad times. Then they're probably going to squawk about the restaurant not being there. And I was walking into this and saying, you know, when we tried to do this in 2011, we started out at 14 cents. That's what we wanted to do because I thought that would make us right where we ought to be. We ended up agreeing on 8 cents. We agreed, yes? We turned in 8 cents.
I thought what we agreed at that time was 12 cents, and I thought it was the city council that
Went to 8?
went to 8.
Okay, so you went to 8. So, and my idea was, let's just make one jump and be done with it. Okay, and get where we wanted to go. Now I'm re-looking at all this and saying, you know, I don't know where we belong. Maybe we don't belong at 14, but when times are bad here, does it make a sense to increase the fuel flow fee when the revenue is 0.21% increase to us? I mean, we can do it. I'm putting the whole thing in perspective. You know, if we're going to make a change, it's going to, I think, have to be a small change. That's all I'm saying. And you already said you need more data here, but I'm just looking at the bigger picture of where I think that we ought to head. And we can revisit this next month, but I thought it would be good for everybody to have time to think about it. Now, maybe I'm all wet, but that's where I'm coming from. Thank you very much.
Well, this won't come up for a vote until 2 months before July, right? Whatever that is, May.
Well,
But my take on this is looking at the rates. Salinas is at 8 cents a gallon, which is equivalent to our airport, and Reed Hill is at 10 cents, and South County, so they're further north, so that they're going to get a few more. Probably expect more. Like Palo Alto's 20 cents a gallon. That's pretty high. My bottom line is, I think at 8 cents a gallon right now, we're fine. But that's my opinion. For now, unless the economy goes skyrocket. Any other comments? That's my 2 cents worth.
well,
Okay,
I guess I could make a comment since most everybody else is.
sure.
I wouldn't necessarily disagree with what everybody has said already, but this is one of the things that we're supposed to do. And last year, we didn't do it because we didn't think about talking about it even until it was too late to have anything happen. And so it's on our agenda now, and at least we're not going to be up against a wall. We can talk about it, we can think about it, we can take the time to get the data, and this is what we're doing. This is the way I see what we're doing. And if we decide, you know, it is true, without the restaurant there, the fuel flows down. On the other hand, the airport is still here. The airport still has to be operated. The pavement still is getting worn out. And you know, all the various things that we have to worry about, making sure the airport runs and has a good budget. So even though it's 0.2%, it's still one of the things that goes into our revenues. And I think we need to do our due diligence, and that's take a look at it and decide what's the right thing to do. So, you know, you're right. We can think about it for a month, and we get the other members here and come up with a decision.
Okay. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, let's move on to new business. The need to purchase new airport vehicles.
Okay, so I don't know how closely you actually look at the vehicles out at the airport, but the maintenance vehicle is just downright garbage. It was garbage when the airport got it several years ago, and it's continued to be garbage since. We've had to replace the transmission twice. We've had to put about 12 batteries in it. It's currently at the shop again. That vehicle is, I can't even remember the year, but I want to say it's 91. It has about 98,000 miles on it, and those aren't normal car miles. Those are Public Works car miles, because that was a Public Works pool vehicle before it came out to the airport at about 70,000 miles. The vehicle is not compliant with FAA regulations to be a service vehicle at the airport. It doesn't have the proper lighting package. It doesn't have the proper color. It doesn't have the proper markings. We did finally get a radio in it a couple years ago when I was able to budget and buy a radio for it. Currently, there is a program available to the city. The city council just did it with the police department, where we can get it's a lease-to-own program, where effectively we get a car loan for 5 years. The more you buy, the better your interest rate. The police department got 3% on $100,000 worth of cars. In fact, I just signed the check a little while ago. The fire department is going to need to buy a couple fire trucks. fire trucks are very expensive vehicles. So what my question is, and my suggestion is, now might be the time to package together with the fire department, because we'll probably get down in the 2% range for this loan. In addition to the maintenance vehicle, the vehicle that I drive, it's showing its age. The paint has decided to stop adhering to the vehicle, and it is jumping off at every opportunity the paint gets to jump off the vehicle. The vehicle can only carry one passenger. Oftentimes, I need to take consultants, VIPs, prospective development people, customers, out to the field to show them what's going on. And I can't transport the group. I've borrowed the minivan from Recreation and promptly had it cleaned and put a carpet over the soda spills, and to take most of Sam Farr's staff around the airport. But, you know, we had Icon Aviation come out to look at the facility. We could only, I borrowed the Explorer. We could only transport a couple of that party around. In addition to the fact that neither my vehicle nor the maintenance vehicle are four-wheel drive. When it rains, you cannot drive off that pavement till March. The mud out there is clay, slippery, sticky, and our vehicles get stuck on a regular basis. We've had to have tow trucks come out at considerable expense to remove our vehicles from the mud when my instructions were not followed and they left the pavement. So basically, my recommendation I'm putting out there to you, and whether or not you want me to follow it up more, would be to replace those two vehicles at this time with a package with the fire department, so we get the best interest rate and pay it off over 5 years. The maintenance vehicle we'd get would also have a lift gate to allow Steve to safely lift heavy objects in and out of the truck to avoid expensive workers' comp claims, as we have had in the past. So anyway, I'm just putting that out there. So that's my recommendation, but I'm seeking your input and interest before I proceed with any more of the work. And we're talking about $120,000 for two vehicles.
For two vehicles, 120? What kind of vehicle would you get, a van or something?
For mine,
Yeah,
Expedition.
and the truck you have now has that fuel tank on it, you would keep that, right?
Yes,
You have to keep that.
that would go in the maintenance truck.
Any input from the commission?
Well, yeah, I got a comment or two.
Surprise.
You mentioned about how your truck only carries one person. It's actually got a back seat, but,
Have you ever sat back there?
well, I actually have. I think I remember you moved a bunch of crap out of the way. And I'm not sure, when you talk about...
Critical to the mission,
Whatever.
pieces of
Okay,
equipment.
that's fine. And yet, I guess what I'm getting at here is, it sounded like the justification for an expedition, or whatever you called it, SUV, I think is what that is, was because 3 times a year you have VIPs that need to be transported, or 4 times a year. I don't know.
For VIPs, but, you know, with the runway projects and the projects, you know, that was weekly. And so
Well, I guess
take
what
up-
I'm saying is you're going to have the expedition full of crap, if pardon my expression, of mission-critical equipment. You'll still have the same problem. Now, so is really an expedition what you need? Or?
Expedition has a cargo area in the rear where you put your mission-critical equipment, so it would not be occupying a backseat.
I see. Well, all right.
But I've literally had to shepherd a caravan of cars out there on the runway none of them legally marked, none of them legally lit. That kind of bothers me.
Okay, well, and I certainly would agree with the four-wheel drive need. I didn't realize you didn't have four-wheel drive. So, well, okay, that's my comments. Thank you.
Is that four-wheel drive on both of them?
Yes.
What's wrong with another city truck out of Works? That's where you got these.
The Public Works city trucks?
Yeah.
I believe they're going to be having an auction soon for a 1978 Dodge
Oh,
that has like,
that's what we used before, and it worked for many years. Why can't we use one of those?
there aren't any available.
Aren't any what?
We don't have a fleet of vehicles sitting around.
Well, I thought you said the city is going to replace some of them.
Well, the water department's replacing
Oh.
their
Oh.
trucks.
I got a problem with $120,000 all at once, first off, and two at the same time. And I don't know why both of them need to be four-wheel drive. And I agree with Dean. We can look at it further, but it just seems like an awful lot of money. It's not going to be worth anything for a while, for a short period of time. Or they're going to get beat up. They're going to get wasted. You know, why do we start with something brand new? So
You
that's
mentioned,
a lot of bucks.
you mentioned lease. So is this 120K you have to put up front, or is that over the?
A investors group puts up the 120K up front, and then we make an annual payment for 5 years to pay that off.
So what's our share of the 120K?
Well,
Well,
be 100%.
100% of the 120K plus, if you get the police department rate, 3% interest annually.
And that comes from the investor group?
Yes.
What is the second vehicle?
The maintenance vehicle? Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, you said an Expedition is one vehicle.
Yes. The other vehicle is, I believe they're getting Chevy 1-ton pickups with super heavy-duty electrical packages, you know, with the 2 batteries so that they can operate the lights. Unfortunately, we can't have a white vehicle. We have to paint it. It's got to be chrome yellow. So that's a $10,000 expense, having the vehicle painted. The lighting package, you're looking at $6,000 to $7,000 to get the lights put on there the way the FAA wants them. That's where the costs are coming from. The vehicle itself, that particular vehicle came in at $50,000 because it has the lift gates, it's super heavy duty, it has a towing package so that we can tow the big trailers out at the yard with equipment. That vehicle would actually be able to tow our tractor to the shop to be maintained, et cetera.
So it must be a 3/4 ton, right?
It's bigger than that even.
Oh.
It's the super duty. Extended bed, cargo boxes on the side, lumber rack on top.
You say the paint job is 10 grand?
Yep.
I'll paint it for less than that. Canary yellow or whatever it is?
Chrome yellow.
What's the timing on all this?
Well, the fire department's in the process of getting their stuff together, so I would say months, not weeks or years, but months. I mean, the maintenance truck definitely needs to be replaced.
Is that the one you want worst?
Oh, absolutely. Because he's out on the field all the time. It is not compliant. If anything happens, we're eating it. Anything happens out there, the city will be, even if we're not at fault, the mere fact that it's not the right color, it's not painted the right way, it's not lit the right way, is enough to sink us.
I've never seen anything from the FAA that said that. They've been out there looking.
It's
Well,
an
they just
advisory
ignore it?
circular.
What?
It's an advisory circular.
Oh.
I love how they call them advisory circulars.
Is that all in one AC?
Yes.
Could you let us know which one that is?
I can send it to you.
Okay.
Well, this vehicle that you need to cart people around the airport, you could probably just lease one for a couple of days and just forget about buying something like that. Right?
Okay, yeah,
How often do you-
VIPs like Samfar, you're talking 4 times a year. But with the construction project that we just completed, it was weekly. You know, every time we needed to go out together, you know, I'm also trying to limit the number of vehicles that go out there. We literally had caravans going across runways and down taxiways, and, you know, I'm hoping that they're all doing what they're supposed to be doing behind me. But I'm trying to eliminate some risk that we have.
Does the proposed vehicle that you're talking about for yourself have to be painted the chrome yellow also?
There is a workaround for that vehicle. I believe there's some reflective markings that can be put on it in stripes, which would be hopefully less than the chrome yellow. But as far as their preference is the chrome yellow, yes. It says if it's going to be out there all the time, chrome yellow. If it's going to be out there some of the time, you can do these things.
And that would be the route that you'd go with that vehicle?
Yeah.
I'm still confused about the 120,000. You say it's a lease?
It's basically a car loan for 5 years. They call it a lease, but it's a car loan.
Oh, so
We
don't
keep
pay
the
that-
vehicle at the end. It's our vehicle.
So we don't pay that up front?
No.
Oh,
No, but you're paying $24,000 a year plus interest for 5 years.
oh, okay. So what do you want from us tonight?
I just wanted to hear you folks out, because if it was, hey, no way, which it may be, then I'm not going to waste my time trying to do that. I'm going to move on to something else. And I'll continue to spend money fixing the vehicles we have and hope that nothing happens.
Well, personally, I don't think it's a good idea to be in a known violation situation. That should be rectified one way or the other.
It's kind of difficult for me if you know what my other job is.
Well, has the FAA written you up for having a white truck out there?
No, the FAA won't do that. But if there's ever an accident,
Then they write
and
you up.
in the lawsuit, it will come out, and then you are going to be holding the bag, because you have no defense at that stage if you're not following the regulations.
It's advisory, not regulation.
They use that word advisory, but I have yet to see one that's only advice.
I understand. It's that-
The runway
it's that
markings.
fuzzy part.
The runway marking one is advisory. The construction regulations of an airport, how you design it and build it, is advisory.
Now, this truck, the truck that you're talking about, you said 50,000 for the truck. Does that include that $10,000 paint job?
No,
Wow.
And what kind of truck is it? Manufacturer?
Chevy, Chevrolet.
And what size?
It's the biggest one they make, 1.5 ton, something like that.
And it's four-wheel drive with a lift on the back? And what kind of, what's in the back? Is it a dump truck?
It's a cargo bed like what we have,
Cargo bed?
There's a toolbox.
only
inside?
the bottom of those toolboxes aren't all rusted out like we have, so you can actually put things in them.
Now, this 120,000 doesn't include the cost for painting?
No, the $120,000 numbers, costs including painting, lighting kits, whole 9 yards.
For 2 vehicles.
The $50,000 number is just the truck.
Yeah, I understand.
Yes, for both vehicles.
Well,
Okay.
I guess my comment at this point in time would be that the truck sounds like it's needed.
Right.
And and you should probably proceed with the truck in any event. The vehicle you drive, I guess I want to think about it a little more, or you can proceed, but we're talking months, we maybe relook at it again or whatever, think about it and see if there's alternatives. I know yours is getting a little tuckered, but that would be my thinking, to move forward with the maintenance vehicle, because you need to do the maintenance. You need a new vehicle, and I would agree that four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive on yours would be appropriate, because you never know which one's going to be out there in the mud or needs to go out into the dirt. So
Getting to the AWAS in winter is an adventure.
yeah, I know, and so I guess I got to think about that one, because we're talking a lot of money here. You know, I mean, one hand earlier we said, well, we shouldn't increase the fuel flow fee. Well, but now we're looking at things that cost a lot of money to keep this airport running. So you know, I'm torn. You know,
A few cents in the fuel flow fee is going to be peanuts compared.
it's all peanuts until you add them up, and it becomes a big barrel. But anyway, I didn't want to get into I'm just saying that I'm just explaining I'm feeling torn about, you know, you got to you're going to find this money somewhere.
Right. Well, why don't we, I have a vote on this, either we purchase the truck only, or,
We're going to tell him which way to go here, is that what
Right.
we're trying to say?
and
Okay.
what's
I'd be in favor of, if the budget can stand it, I think we ought to go for the whole thing instead of piecemeal it, especially if we can take advantage of leveraging in with other municipalities and getting a good deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing this right now if it wasn't for the fire department situation.
Any other inputs?
Because you're probably talking $400,000 for the 2 fire trucks.
Say that again?
The fire department is looking at getting about $400,000 in loans for the 2 fire trucks.
At 3%?
Oh, it'll be less because it's a lot more money.
Well, my take is to just buy the one vehicle, the one truck. You say buy both? What do you say, Dave?
Well, first off, the budget can't take either of them.
That's true.
We're working through the middle of the year, trying to maintain a budget, and all of a sudden having something drop on us, right, it's like, what, 14, 15% of the budget? And we're gonna get machines that are gonna, as far as I'm concerned, they're gonna depreciate, and they're gonna kind of get wasted, you know, and I just can't go for both of them. If you want to buy the truck, you're talking 50, 60,000 over 5 years, that's like $12,000 a year. You know, interest is peanuts the way he's doing it. You know, well, if you want to do that, I guess I would go along with that. That gives you really what you need to get out in the field. And there's going to be times when you have to get out there, you can leave your truck or leave your rig and get in the other one. And it's heavy enough to do everything you need to do. And I'm with Dean, you know. I realize it's really an inconvenience for you when we're doing all this construction work, when you're taking people around. But the way we've been spending money, you could rent a van for $1,000 or something like that, you know, for some period of time, and run these people around, maybe keep it on, get some sort of lease agreement with somebody in Hollister to do that. You know, because we're not always going to have construction. You know, we may not have construction for another year or two here. And when we do, let's bite the bullet. Matter of fact, get the consultants. You know, they've got some margin in their budgets. You work it that way, at least one that way. And then later on, let's consider what your rig is. You know, getting to them at the same time just doesn't make sense to me. I understand why you're doing it, and I understand you got an opportunity, but if we were to do it, I would make a motion that we proceed or agree with the purchase of the larger truck.
Okay, so we got, how about you, Dean? What would you recommend?
Well, I kind of go along with Doug. I'd like to defer that. Mike's vehicle or look at alternatives to it, at least as of now. And this deal, I'm a little nervous about deals, because right now money's cheap. And money's cheap for anybody, anywhere. So I'm not sure, if you were to go to the local dealer, he might give you a loan for 3%. So
Yeah, once again, dealing with municipalities is a little different than going out and just paying for something.
Well, anyway, I guess I just want to think, I'd want to think more about that before I'd recommend that. So if I was to make a motion, my motion would be to advise Mike to go ahead with the truck.
I thought I understood.
Maintenance truck.
Doug, did you not put that in the motion?
Oh, did you make it
Yes.
as a motion? I'm
Doug put
sorry.
it in a motion to purchase the truck.
To recommend purchasing just the truck at this time. Is that correct?
Correct statement.
Or recommend.
Well, then I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second.
Mr. Chairman, could you tell me who is making the motion? Three of you are talking about it, I'm not sure.
Say what?
Doug made the motion to purchase
Buy
this
this
truck only.
Okay.
To recommend, right? That's what you want, a recommendation. So,
And the-
okay, we have recommendation, do we have a second? We have a motion. You second it. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? That's what you were, no? Okay, so it's
I support it.
recommended by 4 of us to proceed with what you have to do to get the truck.
Got it. I will get that information to the people, and then when we get it back, we'll proceed from there.
And what will happen to the old truck? Sell it at auction or something?
Yeah. Maybe drop it from a helicopter. We'll see.
I saw a police car out there today. What's with that?
It's classified. It's also not
Okay,
on
where
the
are we
agenda.
at here? Okay, the next item is discussion of the LAX suing the contractor that built their runway. What's that all about?
A unnamed tenant at the airport asked me to put this on the agenda, so we did. I believe the intention of that person was to point out that LAX is suing a contractor who did a runway extension about 3 or 4 years ago, or if I got that right, because it's prematurely falling apart. And I can tell you in previous discussions with that individual, they are of the opinion that we should sue the contractors that did our runway extension 21 years ago, and have them pay for our new runway so we don't have to pay for it. I talked to the city attorney on Monday and asked her to look into the statute of limitations on a public contract. I got the response today. It's governed by California Code of Civil Procedures, Section 337.15, and the statute of limitation to sue a developer or contractor is 10 years from the date of final inspection. Once again, the runway was extended 21 years ago, which is a little beyond the 10-year time frame. She did tell me that I wanted to check the warranty that was in the contract. I've attempted to locate the contract at the airport. I can't find it. I've attempted to locate the contract at the engineering department. Can't find it. And I attempted to locate the contract at the city clerk's office. The city clerk is currently out of the country, and the fill-in couldn't find it. So I will be following up with the city clerk to see if I can actually get my hands on the contract, but don't get your hopes up, because standard contract's 1 year from the date of final inspection.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Do we have a speaker?
Mr. Gay would like to speak.
Okay.
Jerry Gabe, I'm an airport tenant. Let's get some more accuracy into this thing. Comes from a Los Angeles Times news story, and the four major contractors that built a $250 million south runway at Los Angeles International Airport are the target of a new city lawsuit that alleges widespread construction flaws are causing the runway to wear out prematurely. Okay, what we're talking about is the north end of the runway, pretty much the extension, and it's about 20 or 21 years ago. The first two-thirds of the runway were put in by the U.S. Navy using local contractors almost 70 years ago, or 68 years ago, and that runway has remained fairly intact, and it gets all the beatings of the airplanes landing on it. They're normally landing to the north, so you're landing at the sort of the south end of the runway. So for nearly 70 years, that runway has not come apart. It's had to have some maintenance on it, but it didn't have to be dug up. When the extension to the runway was put in, I understand now 21 years ago, there was some individuals, Bill Brennan on the city council, who was very upset with the way the workmanship was being done. Bill was a civil engineer and understood this. To give you some 30-second, 20-second background on Bill Brennan, he was with the engineering contractor that built the tunnel that goes through the range behind us to draw water from the San Luis Dam. Bill knew what he was talking about, but I don't remember the details very much. Robbie, in fact, is here, and he remembers some of it. But the questions that Bill had were suppressed, and Bill ended up having to hire an attorney to represent him because of these alleged accusations that he was making. Now, we're going to build this runway, spend another $3.5 million. There'll probably be some cost overruns on it. Usually things aren't built on time and to cost, but that's the way we do things. We don't know why the runway really failed. There's no engineering plan that I know about to drill core samples into the existing runway that's falling apart to find out why the runway failed. Whether it failed because there's some substructure of the ground that regardless of what kind of runway we put in there, it's going to fail, or it failed because the contractor just did not follow the engineering plans. This Los Angeles story is, you can all go home and look it up on Google. It's pages and pages of what's going on. And it's a...
Well, I have to say, Jerry, though, that Mike said the statute of limitations was like 10 years. And if
Well,
because
I've heard attorneys say this and attorneys say that. I've heard attorneys say that,
Everybody
I've been
knows
in there that certain state rules for landlord-tenant relationships don't apply when the city is the landlord. Frankly, if there was fraud involved, I don't believe that the statutes protect someone that did something fraudulently or someone that signed off documents to the fact that the thing just wasn't built right. And what I would like to see is the city engineers come up with at least a initial cost, to take some core samples out of the existing runway if it hasn't already been done and find out why it failed.
The cost was $70,000, and it was done 3 years ago.
And why did it fail?
Actually, I might be able to tell you that tomorrow after a meeting we're having. We're going to discuss that. We're discussing whether or not we need to go do more core samples to determine that, et cetera. Basically, they attempted what was new technology at the time, which was lime treating the earth out there, and did not put any base rock underneath the asphalt per specs. The asphalt lasted 20 years. That's about the lifespan of non-base rock asphalt, 20 years. When you put the base rock down, you get 30 years. I don't think it's any secret that a lot of it wasn't maintained properly for years out at the airport. I don't know when the previous slurry seal was done than the one we did 5 years ago, but you're supposed to do those every 5 years. I don't think anybody in this room could tell me that they know that that had occurred. I did see mention of a slurry seal sometime in the past when I was going through looking for the contract, and I want to say it was in about 94, and I think it was in association with the construction project that once it was done, they slurry sealed the entire airport, and I do believe that was the previous time. It is expensive to maintain asphalt. It is expensive to maintain concrete. Recently, they just released a big scientific study about the cost of regulations at airports. I don't know if I sent it to some of you or not, but they determined that between the FAA, the TSA, the EPA, the state regulations and everything, that it costs so much money to obey and maintain all those regulations. Airports can't afford to exist.
Mike, I understand what you're saying, but before all these regulations were ever even put on paper, the U.S. Navy hired a local contractor to build a runway out here.
It was actually the Army. The Army sold the base after it was built to the Navy.
Okay. A government contractor hired a local contractor to build a runway out here almost 70 years ago that has survived.
And there is base underneath that section of the runway, various thickness, as much as 18 inches in some places, as little as 6 inches in others. Our core samples showed that. I believe we did something like 60 core samples throughout the runway. We needed to do about 380, but the FAA wouldn't pay for it. But that's how we got this, the runway condition index that has funded this grant to replace everything. I can't speak for what happened in the past because a lot of this happened when I was sitting in those seats back there in high school. But I can tell you we have the right team now to do it right. We're doing the right thing. We're taking core samples. We got soils engineers that are going to be at a meeting tomorrow that I'm going to be at, even though I'm supposed to actually be off this week. So I believe we put together the best team. We have a plan. The FAA's funded it. We've done the studies that are required to be studied. So, you know, we're going to put in another 30-year runway. And hopefully this time we're going to maintain it so it goes 50 or 60 years. But even with proper maintenance every 5 years, you're only going to get 50 or 60 years out of an asphalt roadway.
I want to use something as a parallel, and that will be the last thing I'll have to say about this. If you bought a house, a new house, and you had a contractor build a foundation for the house out of concrete, and after, so we knew this runway had been failing for many years. It's not something that just happened last week or last month. This has been going on for the last 10 years or longer. But let's say you went ahead and had a house built by a contractor here in town, and you lived in the house 10 years, and the foundation was giving you a problem, and then finally the house would no longer sit on the foundation. So you have to lift the house off the foundation and build another foundation. And this is kind of what's going on out there. I mean, would you put up with that kind of crap? I mean, you knew this was going on for 10 years, that you could see the foundation crumbling. And you did some patchwork on it and tried to do this and that, and then finally it has to be replaced. Would you want to eat those costs? Or would you want it to go back to the contractor and the engineering people and the city engineers that signed this thing off, that it was done according to specifications, which we can't seem to find? my last comment on this thing. I just think it's outrageous that we tolerate this type of behavior. We should get better services from the money we spend. And somewhere along the line, we should put a stake in the ground and say enough is enough.
I
Thank you,
believe
Mr.
we did that when we consulted with CNS Engineering.
Yeah, I think that what happened some 20-some-odd years ago, there was probably a lot of flaky politics involved. I don't think you can ever go back that far and have anything done about it. I really don't.
About this 10 years, but this isn't something that just popped up. We knew the runway was coming apart 10 years ago.
Okay. Anyway. Okay, next item. Oh, do we have any other further discussion by anybody on the, no? Okay, I'll move on to the next item is vote for a new chairman.
The gig is up, Fred.
This is supposed to happen on a regular meeting every June, according to the bylaws. So I don't know what we can do about it now. I've been in this.
We've been busy, so
Should I just keep being chair for a while? Or do you wanna
that's
vote
up to
me
you
out?
guys. I think you're about to get nominated.
I can't run too slow.
Dean's reaching for the mic.
No, I was just going to say, once again, it doesn't make it right to just ignore what we're supposed to do. And if we're doing it late, we still maybe should do it.
So are you going to nominate somebody?
Well, how long have you been chairman?
Too long.
More than
No.
1 year?
About a year and a half, I think.
Well,
So I guess I can
you
run.
could, if you've only had one term and we're kind of dribbling into the next term, you could probably finish out one more term
I guess I could.
if we wanted. I mean, if you want to do that, but we ought to make it official, that's all. I think that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Actually, the bylaws also state that it has to be done on a regular meeting. This is a special meeting, so we couldn't
Oh,
do it.
you're right.
So-
He's right.
Okay,
Darned
so
LA.
next June, I'm going to nominate you, Dean.
Well, you can't, you're right, I guess,
So basically what you're saying is Steve and Gordon's plan has backfired. They thought they'd duck this meeting for this reason. All right,
Okay.
so we'll bring this back next time.
Okay. So items for next agenda.
Fred,
Yes.
we received 2 minutes with this agenda. Were we supposed to approve them, or were they already approved, or, I'm just asking.
Did I skip that?
Well, it's not on this agenda, but with the agenda, we got the minutes of 2 monthly meetings. Did
No,
we
you
get
guys-
those
you
because they
guys-
had to be approved, or what?
You guys did that and approved them.
Yeah, one was brought back for
Item
corrections.
4? Verification of agenda posting.
5.
Public,
Consent. Approve the minutes. Yeah,
I'm
we did
sorry,
that. We
I'm
did-
sorry. Excuse me. You're right.
Yeah. Okay, items for next agenda. What do we
No
have?
new
here?
truck for Mike. So that will not be there. There will not be a new truck for Mike there.
Oh.
No, 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 no,
Okay,
no, 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 no. I'll find a bike. I'll find a skateboard. Mm-hmm. Skateboard.
Okay, I think we want to keep the restaurant, food service, picnic area thing on there, carry it forward.
Yep.
Okay. ACIP, I think we're done there.
For another year.
And we just leave the annual fuel flow review on there just as a reminder.
Mm-hmm.
More discussion, yeah. And then the purchase of new vehicles, I want to leave that on the agenda.
Okay.
Yep.
And anything else from the commission?
Is there any way that we can postpone this till December?
Well, what about the new chairman? Are you want to discuss that then?
The 29th of,
If we
No, I
can't do
think-
anything this time, or you?
Supposed to
not
have
gonna be
been-
here either.
supposed to have been done in June.
27th of November is next meeting.
At a
So
regular meeting,
Actually,
so-
we're going to need to change the date?
I think I just
Are
put
you
it on
I just
there.
want to delay it and, or just
Just
delete
probably-
it and then bring it up in May or something, that we need to do it.
The vote for a new chairman, we'll just probably just,
Well, we gotta do a regular meeting.
Anytime before that.
And then the next one, December.
Mike,
well, I'm in a second term.
discussion to change this one too.
But we ought to bring up what we did tonight at a regular meeting
Okay,
to be formal and correct
Okay.
according to the bylaws.
okay, so we'll leave that item on there.
Yeah, and during that meeting, we'll just agree to continue this year and
Right,
in
'Cause I'm not
June
gonna
we'll
be
elect
here either.
somebody. I mean, if that's what we want to do.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, did you get that, Lynn? We're going to leave the vote for a new chairman on, because, okay.
Actually, we need to discuss that on the next item,
The next item.
the date of the next meeting.
Okay, next meeting, oh, yes. Next meeting date.
Well, we're gonna have that issue for a couple months. So we're actually not gonna have another regular meeting till January. Our regular meeting date in December is Christmas Day. I'm not coming, sorry. The regular meeting date in November is right before Thanksgiving, and I'm gonna be driving to Oregon. So we need to switch November to a different date. I just heard that Mr. Leonardo's leaving on the 20th for a trip in November, so if we could pick a date before the 20th, he could participate in the fuel flow discussions, which I think is appropriate.
So,
So what date do we want? And we will probably need to have this meeting at the airport.
so you're saying have it in January?
No, I'm saying have it before November 20th.
Oh.
Before November 20th?
Yes,
20
our next
before the
meeting.
27th,
No,
before the
20th.
So,
Before the 20th?
If you want to discuss the fuel flow
Oh.
fee. If you want to put it off to December, then no harm, no foul.
well, except we're not going to meet on the 25th of December. We still need a different date.
That is true.
Is Mr. Leonardo going to be back?
He'll be back in December.
So,
I wouldn't have a problem meeting early in December
Okay.
personally, but I don't know. What's everybody else think?
I don't either.
I mean, we're not going to, and basically, we're trying to combine November and December onto one meeting.
Okay, so you don't want to meet in early November?
We can. Is it, you
And then meet again in December?
you mean just try to do early both months?
Sure. Okay, set it up for November.
That'd be okay with me, too, either way.
Okay, so some date before November 20th for November?
What's, I can't see the calendar.
Yeah, it's the middle one.
Pick a
over there.
date.
Pick a day. Do
Wednesday,
Wednesdays
do
work?
Wednesday,
Do
do the
Thursdays work?
Why is Thursday 13th?
Tuesdays work?
Oh,
Is
any
that a
day.
holiday?
I guess this is more for Doug, because I know Doug has other commitments. I believe your other commitment's on the third Wednesday? So how about the 14th or the 19th? It's a- No, that's a Thursday or Tuesday.
14th,
That's the Thursday.
Thursday, the 14th of November?
all right?
Everybody good with that?
Okay. Yes.
Ooh, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah, you have new commitments too.
Yeah, no, I'm not good for Thursday nights.
Okay, so Tuesday, the 19th of November. Anybody have commitments on Tuesday nights?
I'm going to be on vacation during that time.
Okay.
So 19th?
Yep.
The 19th.
Well, let's schedule it for the 19th, which is the latest date possible in November, and we'll check with the other commissioners, and we may just have to cancel it straight out.
All right.
So, so that takes care of November. In which case, we're going to leave vote for a new chairman off of it because it's a special meeting.
You can leave it on as a reminder.
We will have the annual fuel flow rate discussion on the 19th. The meeting will take place at the airport in our conference room at 6 p.m. And then we can either discuss December at that time or do it now.
Okay.
If we have a meeting on the 19th, is there, and nothing new comes up, is there a reason we have to have one in December?
I don't see any reason unless Santa needs us for something, but No.
Could we address the December meeting at the end of the November meeting?
I think so.
Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's okay with me?
So in that case, there won't be a meeting in December, and we'll bring the chairman vote in January.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Move we adjourn.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Who's second?
Aye. Huh?
Who was the second?
Who seconded?
I will, if you want me to.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting done.